Hello and welcome. I am Suyash Maheshwari and you are watching First Stick here on News 9, where we break down the morning action on Dalal Street and bring to you the top stocks that will be in the spotlight today. But as always, let's do a quick check on the global markets. Now, Wall Street kick-started the holiday shortened week on a positive note, boosted by strong gains in tech stocks led by Microsoft and Nvidia. US markets are now on a 5-day winning run. Dow Jones Industrial Average on Monday's session settled 0.58% higher, and S&P 500 added 0.74%, while Nasdaq Composite climbed 1.13% in Monday's trade. European markets saw cautious start to Monday following a strong week. The Pan-European Stock 600 index closed 0.1% higher after moving either side of the flat line through the morning session. Asian markets were also trading in the green this Tuesday morning, mirroring similar moves on Wall Street after a tech-fueled rally. Hang Seng was up around 1%, and South Korea's Kospi was also trading up almost 1%. Japanese shares, on the other hand, were trading flat as we speak. Now, other major cues that are favoring a risk-on sentiment for the global equities. Now, the dollar index has fallen to a 2.5-month low and is currently hovering around the 103.2 sort of levels. US 10-year bond yields, which briefly slipped below the 4.4% on back of strong bond auction in the US, has reclaimed those levels and is currently hovering around the 4.41% sort of mark. Brent crude, on the other hand, is the only negative cue. The Brent crude prices have climbed by about 2% on expectations that OPEC, including Russia, will consider additional supply cuts when it meets on November 26. Now, coming back home, Indian markets saw positive start to today's trading session, with the first tick for Nifty coming in at around 19,770 mark. The market is holding on to those gains, as you can see on your screen. As of 9:30 a.m. this morning, Nifty was sitting with gains of 0.32% at 19,758 mark, whereas sensex was up 0.44% below the 66,000 sort of levels. The Midcap 100 has opened above the 42,000 mark in today's trade for the very first time. The Midcap 100 index is still holding on above those levels. As of 9:30 a.m., it was up 0.39% at 42,018 mark. Nifty Small Cap 100 has also made a new lifetime high, although it's facing resistance below the 14,000 mark. As of 9:30 a.m., the small cap index was up 0.72%, sitting at 13,972 mark. India VIX, the volatility index, has slipped by about 4%. As of 9:30 a.m., it was down 3.76% below the 12 mark. So, all in all, the setup is looking fairly positive for the bulls, and a slip in volatility will perhaps also augur well for them. But with that, let's also welcome Brijesh Ail of IDBI Capitals. Hello, sir. Welcome to the show. Now, when we last spoke, you had indicated that 19,800 will be a very crucial, resistance zone for the market. Now, we have since scaled those levels, but not really managed to close above that mark. Is that still the big wall for the market to climb?
Morning, Suresh. So I think what I said in the last week, that 19,800, 850, that 50 points band was the resistance zone. But slightly the data over this week is now changing. Like 19,800 and 19,900. The call writers which were active are now slowly unwinding their short positions. So this is the early signs which says that this level might be broken during this week. So I'm pretty confident, since we are all talking technically, we just need a confirmation. So on a confirmation note, as and when 19,800 is taken out, I think 20,222, which is the all-time high level, we are likely to retest those points. So extremely positive on the market. I'm just waiting for that confirmation on 19,800 mark on a closing basis. So I will stand to my original view, and would be looking for the stock-specific long ideas in this market, as my view for the week remains bullish.
Right, that's the view on Nifty. Now, also wanted to get your view on the banking pack. We formed a doji sort of a candle in yesterday's trade, took support at around 43,500 mark on a closing basis. Opened with healthy gains this morning, but still facing resistance around that 43,800 mark. Now, my first question will obviously be, has that negative news flow of Friday, where RBI has tightened the norms on unsecured lending, has that been priced in? And are we seeing, some sort of a trend reversal playing out this morning?
So the first thing that Friday's negative thing, I think it is discounted. So the impact for that particular news should not be hampering the Bank Nifty. But then, having said this, Bank Nifty is more or less in a range from a technical perspective, 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. So this 200-day moving average is 43,300 and 50-day is 44,200. So this is in this band. And the good thing is on the Friday when the negative news came, the Bank Nifty didn't break 200-day moving average. And now it is somewhere considering close to 43,500, 43,000. So this is going to act as a demand zone. Bank Nifty right now it's in the range bound kind of a move. But as I said, even the data for the Bank Nifty is slowly changing. For example, 43,800 call option, 43,900 call option, the shorts position are slowly getting unwinded. So I think somewhere Bank Nifty will also reverse. The trigger, obviously, the trigger for the Bank Nifty is 44,000 level technically. But I have a very strong sense both Nifty and Bank Nifty should outperform during the week.
All right. Brijesh, also want to get your view on the broader markets. I mean, the kind of rally that we are seeing playing out, the markets fell in late October, then we saw a good bit of a run up. But what has been consistent has been the broader markets. Is it a unique situation that we are seeing playing out? And, how long do you think this rally in perhaps both mid caps and the small caps can sustain?
I think before Diwali, we all had a view that there could be some good rally, and we always believed the October month would possibly can be a positive month, but that didn't take place. So I think post that time the FIs is extremely short in the market. Now for the after the rollover, after the expiry, monthly expiry in the last month, slowly the FIs have started to exit their short positions. Eventually, in the last month, what we saw, the FIs almost went to 1,75,000 short in the index future. Now they are close to 1,35,000 contracts. So they are slowly exiting their short position. And same thing is also we can see in the call writers position. So this is somewhere suggests that there can be a small rally. I don't know whether this rally will be a new rally, but then definitely range breakout is something which is on the card. As you said, mid cap and small cap should outperform. Maybe the front like large cap may not be that thing, but then definitely mid cap and small cap will be the taste for the market.
Now, Brijesh, shifting focus from sectors to specific stocks, one of the stocks that I want to pick your brains on is Pratap Snacks. Now, the stock seems to be coming out of a bit of a stupor, for 2023, it's just up about 13%, and most of the gains came in yesterday's trade where the stock hit a upper circuit of 20%. Even today opened 5.5% higher. We have seen some profit booking since, but the stock is still holding on, around 2% higher or so. How is that stock looking on the price charts?
Pratap Snacks, I think today after the opening, some selling is coming. But then I think in Pratap Snacks, there's a block deal which happened yesterday. So I think with that, there is a very good volume breakout. The monthly time frame of the Pratap Snacks is looking good on charts. Probably if let's see if this month closes on the positive note, then the all-time high level of this 1448 level is likely to be retested. The structure slowly, the high top, high bottom structure for the Pratap Snacks is turning positive. I think somebody strong hands are buying in the counters, so we need to be invested. I think this momentum can go back to the all-time high level, which is somewhere close to 1440, 1450 mark. So it's a very good trade setup. I think we should be invested, and whenever there is a correction close to 940, 920 level, I think that can be a favorable risk-reward ratio where we can make a fresh entries in this counter.
Now, another stock, Brijesh, I want to touch upon is Mankind Pharma. Yesterday it hit an all-time high level. This morning it's trading, muted. It's down about 0.5% or so. But in the last 1 month, we have seen quite a bit of run-up in this stock. It's up about 15% or so. Now, what's your view on Mankind, sir?
As we all know that Mankind Pharma has been added to MSCI, this index. It has been added to the large cap. We have very limited charts, but then if we see the weekly time frame, so this chart has moved after the 18 weeks of sideways consolidation, and that range for that particular week is 200 points move. So I think a fresh 200 points move, continuation of this trend for another 200 points is possibly looks good on chart, and maybe this it's a newly listed, so the charts are very limited from the long-term perspective, but the momentum is definitely positive. I think another 200 points move should what we see from the continuation of this price.
Right, another 200-point move could be on the cards for Mankind Pharma. But sir, before we let you go, could you give our viewers, 3 to 5 short-term trading ideas, because as we know the market has been quite volatile and the action is perhaps in that stock-specific, sector-specific areas?
Suresh, I have 3 trading picks and 2 positional ideas. So I'll start with the Bharti. So yesterday, I think the Bharti has seen some range breakout and there has been volumes has picked up. So I think Bharti should be by the current level with a stop loss of 946. And it's a trading bet. 991 should be the target for the Bharti Airtel. Then one more reversal candidate which we are observing is the Godrej CP consumer product. So I think that's again a very good buy setup at the current level. The stop loss would be 980 for the price target of 1031. So this is again a trading bet. We are seeing some positional trades in the KIMS, Krishna Institutional Management. So that's a cash trade. So I think one should take a buy at the current price with the stop loss of 1860, and I would target 2094 as the short to medium term target. Next is the Kolte Patel. As we all know, the reality space is picking up, and this particular stock is having a clear-cut trade setup. Yesterday, there was a good buying which we saw in Kolte Patel. So with the stop loss of 535 for the target of 592, again a positional trade in the Kolte Patel. When I say the positional trade, this can go for 2 to 3 weeks. And one more trading bet is in the NCC, Nagarjun Construction Company. So it's again a trading call at the current price with a stop loss of 166. For the target of 181.
All right, those are the stock picks from Brijesh Ail. Sir, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for joining us here on First Take.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
But before we move on, let's also look at how the markets are doing. Nifty 50 is holding well above that 19,750 mark as we speak. In fact, it is building onto the morning gains, and as of 10 a.m. this morning, Nifty was above the 19,970 mark, so near the day's high, around 10-15 points shy of it. Sensex is also climbing, close towards that 66,000 mark. We are currently, as of 10:10 a.m., about 90 points shy of it. Nifty Midcap 100 has slipped below the 42,000 mark. It's just about 11 or 12 points shy of that. The small cap index has also seen some moderation. It was up about 0.8% in the morning trade, has declined quite significantly, and as of 10 a.m. this morning, it was up around 0.17%. below the 13,900 mark. Volatility, which was in the negative early this morning, has in fact turned positive. India VIX is up 0.86% above the 12 sort of levels. Now with that, let's also welcome Mohit Gang, co-founder and CEO at Moneyfront. Now, sir, I mean, the 3 powerful forces, the 3 horsemen as we call it, the dollar index has slipped to a 2.5 month low from 107 sort of levels to about 103 now. Crude prices have moderated by about $14-15 from their recent peak. Bond yields have slipped by about 60 basis points or so. Overall, the setup at least in November is looking fairly positive. But given the kind of returns that we have seen in the past couple of weeks or so, Do we expect some bit of consolidation to, play ahead?
Hi Suyash, morning. I think look, all the three reasons or factors which you have pointed out are playing very well out in the market, especially on the US market front. Look, so if you see Nasdaq and S&P per se, they have almost like a 7% kind of a rally in the month of November itself. I think easing of oil is one of the biggest boons for India, which should ideally play out, and which we have also seen in the OMC's stocks being played out in the market in the recent rally, right? And the US yields easing off and the dollar index easing off, I think both are kind of correlated out there, which is what is fueling the rally in Nasdaq and the IT stocks in US per se. Yesterday, I think the Meta stock was up, but that was for other reasons. But per se, I think the US markets have been doing fairly well. In comparison, if you see Indian markets for the month of November has been more like in a range kind of a setup. They're more consolidating, or they're more kind of spending some time around that level. My sense is market are just bracing up now. And I think we will have some triggers on and off coming here with the elections. I think 3rd of December is the result date for the
Right.
assembly elections, right? And I think that should give market the first impetus, and from there on to general assembly elections, there will be a lot of infra announcements in the market. There will be a lot of capex which will go. There will be a lot of public sector spending which will go in the market. So all that should augur really well for the market. So my sense is market is just about spending time this month around that level, and hopefully we should see a trigger on from here on.
Now, talking about how much, uncertainty we have going ahead, Indian markets have been a relatively, underperformer in the emerging market basket. We have underperformed South Korea and Taiwan. But given the kind of earnings season where we have had phenomenal earnings growth, about of 14 to 16% in the September quarter, far ahead of these geographies. Do you expect, with the three big factors also favoring emerging markets, and FII is also turning buyers in the November series, do you expect this Indian market to outperform that emerging market basket?
Look, Suresh, I think it's a matter of time. Honestly, I think FIS turning positive this month is a great story. DIIs have always been positive. We've all been talking about the DII flow and participation in this show itself for a fairly long while now, which has kept the market where it is. But with FIS again turning positive this month, I think it's a great story. My sense is, look, public sector spending will spike up till about general elections, and then we should see some private sector capex announcements post the elections, and both should augur well. If you see, one of the leading brokerage houses has also come out with a report of around 21,400 or thereabouts level of Nifty by December 24. So my sense is markets looks extremely positive. We obviously can't expect supernormal returns from these levels. We're at a fairly elevated levels, but given the earnings season, given the way the election season should span out, there's public spending which will happen, the way consumption is shaping up in the festive season, and now we have the marriage season on. So I think all those factors will contribute, and plus the winter crop also seems to be moderate. So my sense is all these factors clubbing up together, plus oil moderating at around $80 a level. So I think all these are extremely positive triggers for the economy. So hopefully it should help the markets as well.
Now, talking about elections in the 5 state, do you think market will perhaps take cues from the state election? If there is no continuity with the ruling party, can we see a notable sort of a correction if the results disappoint?
Look, Swish, I think honestly markets know very well that the assembly and the voting trends in the assembly and general elections are fairly different. And we have seen that for last 3-5 odd years that the Indian voters have now evolved to a level where they're voting very differently in assembly and voting very differently in the general elections. Having said which, if the rural party suffers a huge blow by a big margin in those leading North Indian states of Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, then and perhaps it could be a bit of a jolt for the market. But however, it doesn't look like that given the way the opinion polls are coming in and all other factors are indicating. Even if it is a marginal loss or a victory in any one of the states, I think market will take that in stride because people are fairly well aware that the voting patterns are different now. So my sense is I think general election will have its own shape and trajectory and markets will follow it very differently.
Now, one of the things that we noted on Friday, which has had a big impact on the banking and the financial space, was RBI tightening the noose on unsecured lending. Now, one of the repercussions, as I understand, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that, personal loans will get expensive. Now, do you expect that to impact, demand in consumer durables, especially since Q3 is a seasonally strong quarter for us, given the festive demand that we see, given the wedding season?
Look, I think bulk of the season is almost behind us, Shuesh. Now it's just a matter of around a month, which is perhaps even maybe till December mid or December end is the peak of the buying season. But we are bulk of the season or the festive period is already behind us. But I think it was a very timely action by RBI because RBI has been raising this point of a very loose credit policy being followed and a lot of personal loan market as in growing out of proportion, a lot of fintechs entering that space, and I think there was always a prevailing a sword which was hanging, and I think RBI has been very timely in that action. So and whatever impact on particular names and stocks was to happen, it has already happened, and I think market has already factored in. We have seen stocks of SBI cards, RBL, Bajaj Finance being hammered for last 2 odd days. So I think the market impact is already done and dusted to a vast extent.
Anything that's looking attractive in this banking and the financial space, sir?
To be honest, I think with the price action which has happened on Bajaj Finance after this news, I think it was always an attractive stock in the NBFC space. I think there is no comparison. It's the market leader by a mile. So my sense is it still looks very attractive from these levels. I think we're fairly bullish on Bajaj Finance.
And another sector that has been in focus is the Nifty IT pack, sir. Like I think it was the outperformer in yesterday's trade. Overall, in the last 1 week or so, we have seen 7% or so rally in the Nifty IT pack. And even the big stocks, the top 5, top 6 stocks like your TCS and Infosys are also participating in that rally. Do you think that this rally is more sentimental in nature, given that there are only talks of US perhaps not going for that additional rate hike come December, or perhaps thinking about rate cuts by FY25, or are we seeing any sort of situations change on the ground as well?
Suyesh, if you recall, I think it was your last session or maybe last time when we spoke, I was fairly bullish on the IT index per se. And I think that was one of my favored picks. And it still continues to be for fundamental reasons, honestly. I think with the rate cycle turning around, the IT pack should definitely work well, which has historically been the case. There is a kind of inverse correlation out there. With the yields easing off, the IT pack looks extremely attractive, not with an immediate view, but yes, with a 6 months to a 1 year kind of a view. I think the IT pack is looking very attractive. We've already seen NASDAQ running up. We've already seen US tech stocks doing exceedingly well for last month or 3 months kind of a period. Right. And even in India, if you see the leaders in the IT pack, the large cap names, they've kind of bottomed out in terms of correction or re-rating, if you might as well call. They're all extremely good capital allocators. They're very efficient capital allocators sitting with huge cash piles on the book. So there is not too much headroom for the market to derate them further. My sense is there is a bottom formation out there. Names like Infosys, TCS, even Tech Mahindra for that matter. We see a strong, sharp bounce back in all these names from here on. Though it might not happen immediately, they might still consolidate further for around a month or 3 months from here on. But with the 1 year view, we're extremely bullish on these names.
So another sector that is buzzing, and perhaps it's probably on the back of a fall in crude prices, is the OMC companies, the oil marketing companies. The likes of Indian Oil, Bharat Petroleum, Hindustan Petroleum have given double digits return in the last 1 month or so. Is that in a sweet spot, given that we have seen considerable amount of correction in crude prices, and overall the prices have pretty much consolidated, and they are not taking cues from that Israel-Hamas conflict that we are seeing playing out?
I think what is playing out in the market is the correction in the crude prices, honestly. But this is a very tricky trade, Suyash, and I've always maintained that these are the most sensitive PSU stocks out there in the market, and touching these stocks in an election season is extremely risky. Look, the windfall tax rates from the government have been changing. Government has again reduced the tax rate, and that is again one big trigger out there. But if you see the trend across the assembly elections, various parties have been rolling out SOPs against the LPG prices. Basically, so you never know how that election season pans out and what happens to the freebies or the SOPs being around the LPG prices, the kerosene prices, and even the fuel prices for that matter. Having said which, I think the all the OMCs have turned green this quarter. Last quarter, quite a few of them were showing negative profitability, but this quarter they are showing huge profitability given that the crude prices have fallen off. So as of now, yeah, the trade looks good, but again, we kind of stay away from this pack. There's too much of what do you say, government intervention, and given the election season, will stay away from this.
Now, sir, one of the things that, you know, in the last few times that we have chatted is that you have been extremely cautious about the primary market and, you know, the overall activity that we are seeing in the IPO market. Now, we have a flurry of IPOs this week, and today we have a big one coming out in IRDA, which will be the first government offering since LIC came out back in May 2022. Now, this is a pure play green finance company, and, you know, even the green finance space, the renewable energy space has been gaining a lot of traction. Is IRDA a buy? Should one look at IRDA as a, you know, a good long-term bet?
Suyash, is raining IPOs, honestly, and I think specifically talking about IRDA, it's after a long that a government company has come out in the market. It's obviously an OFS plus fresh issuance, which the government of India will offload some stake out there. Look, I think it's a very attractive space, and plus whatever the good part about government companies coming out in the public market is that they always leave something on the table. At around 32 rupees, which is the upper price band, honestly the price to book earnings will be around 1.2 times, and the P multiple will be around 6 times, which is fairly reasonable. And I think there is a lot which the bankers have left on the table for retail investors to make. However, I am not very sure how much allotment will the investors get. The issue size is fairly small, but with a long-term view also, if one has to enter in post the IPO, even then I think it makes sense, given that the space is very niche and the government has very ambitious goals around green financing. Though you can always contest that the balance sheet health compared to REC and PFC of this company is relatively weaker. However, the NPA provisioning has been reducing for last couple of years, and hopefully I think things should improve on the profitability front and the NIM front also further. But yes, for a long-term investment purpose and even for listing gains, I think it's a shouting buy.
All right, IRDA, a shouting buy for listing gains as well as long-term, long-term portfolio benefits. Sir, Mohit sir, always a pleasure talking to you. Appreciate you joining us here on First Tick.
Thank you so much, Suyash.
But before we wrap things up, let's also look at how the markets are holding up. I am made to believe that Nifty is still holding above the 19,750 mark. As you can see on your screen, as of 10:10 a.m. this morning, Nifty was up 0.36% at 19,764 mark. We are still facing resistance at around 19,800 levels. In fact, at the day's high of around 19,790, we were just about 10 points shy of it. Nifty, sensex on the other hand, has fallen below the 65,900 sort of levels. And it's as of 10:10 a.m. this morning, it was up 0.34% at 65,878 mark. The Midcap 100 index is also below the 42,000 mark now. As of 10:10 a.m., it was up 0.24% at 41,957 sort of levels, whereas the small cap index, which was the top gainer among the three, has slipped into the red and is now down 0.07% below the 13,900 mark, around 35 points shy of it. Volatility, India VIX has also, you know, risen 0.5%, and as of 10:10 a.m. this morning, it was up 0.43% above the 12 sort of levels. But with that, we have completely run out of time on this edition of First Take. Keep watching News 9.